next question. So the next question is we have to calculate area and circumference of the circle. But in this program, we are going to add a default constructor and we will accept xy coordinates for the circle. So the very first thing we will write the output. So here first I'll accept x and y coordinate from user, that is set 2 and 3. Then we will accept radius, so which is 6. Then we have to display this coordinate. So coordinate are 2, 3. Radius is 6. Then area, we will calculate some circumference. This is what output I want. So in this program we will use class. Say class name is circle. What is a class? Class is nothing but which combine the data member and member function. So what do you mean by data member and member function? Now the important thing for class is class ends with the curly bracket and semicolon. Now we will declare data members. Data members are nothing but the variable and member function is nothing but the whichever function we are going to declare within class. So here for x and y coordinates we want two variables, that is x comma y, and one more variable, that is r for radius. I am declaring. Now within class you have an access specifier. What do you mean by access specifier? There are 3 types of access specifier. One is public, second one is private, and third one is protected. Here I am using public. Access specifier. If you want more details for access specifier, comment below. I will create another video for this access specifier. So here I use public, and within public we are going to declare the function. Now the very first function, that is default constructor itself. Now what do you mean by default constructor? 3 rules we have to follow for this default constructor. First thing is constructor. 2 types of constructor is there. One is default and another one is parameterized constructor. The first rule for constructor is it is having the same name as the class name. So we have our class name is circle. So default constructor name will be same as your class name. So this is what called default constructor. Why it is default? Because there are no arguments for this constructor. It is called default constructor. The second thing is, the first thing is, again I am explaining this. Default constructor is having same name as a class name is called constructor with no argument. Second one, it is called default constructor. Third one is there is no data type for a constructor, not even void. Okay, no data type for the constructor, not even void. This is the third rule for the default constructor. Now next one is you have 2 more functions to calculate area and circumference. So area is a function and one more, that is circumference. I'll write in a short, that is circum is the another function. Now data type, as for variable I have given float, so here I'll give double as a data type. And the last function is your default. Why we have to use print function, I'll explain afterwards. The very first thing is, now I have declared the data members and the member function. Now by default, for data members, access specifier by default is private. If you don't give any access specifier for anything, it will by default accept as a private access specifier. So your variables, data members are within private, and all the data member function are in the public access specifier. Now one by one, we will define all the functions. So the very first function is default constructor. So how to define function outside the class? This is your class ends with curly bracket and semicolon. Now we will define this default constructor outside the class. So the main rule to define a function, first I'll define the normal function, that is area function outside the class. Then I'll explain the default constructor, so you can understand what is the difference between the simple function and the constructor. So first I'll define area function outside the class. So the syntax for that, whichever function you're going to define, you have to write first data type of that function, then name of the class, that is circle, then scope resolution operator, this colon, 2 times colon is called scope resolution operator, and then the name of the function. Now within this area function, we are going to calculate area of a circle, which is nothing but 3.14 into r into r. Okay, and as we have double as a data type, you have to write return 3.14 into r into. Now this is what normal function will be defined outside the class. Now before this, I'll write default constructor where we will accept x and y coordinate and the radius. As you can see, the output first two lines are enter x and y coordinates, enter a radius. This input thing, these are two lines for input. We are going to write these two inputs in default constructor. So as a default constructor doesn't have any data type, so we will not write data type over here. Directly we will write name of the class. So circle, scope resolution operator, and name of the function is also a circle. So this is how you are going to define default constructor. Now within default constructor, we will accept numbers from the user. So here I'll write, say, enter x and y coordinates. Here I'll write C in, that is x, extraction operator, y, in C out, enter, radius, again C in. So you have to remember these things where we are going to accept numbers from the user. That time only I have to write C in. Now I have accepted x and y coordinate, I have accepted radius, now I calculated area. Same you have to calculate circumference. So again double circle, circum, as I have written in the shortcut, that is circum, as you can see over here. Circum is in short form. Now here you have to calculate circumference. So again here I'll write written formula for this is 3.14 into 2 into 1. Now we have done with the free function. Now last function is a print function. So within print function I'm going to print all these things, that is coordinate, radius, area and circumference. These four are output lines. Coordinates we have to display as it is, radius we have to display as it is, then area and the circumference. I'll write it down within print function. So here again we have to define print function outside the class. So here I'll write again for the double. We have used void for that. Void name of the class is circle. Then print function. So here we have to display first. See, scrolling it so as you can see the output. Here I'll write say Cout. The third line is the output. So Cout coordinate are, we have stored coordinates in x and y variable. So here I'll divide with this insertion operator. Here I'll write x. I want comma between them. So within double inverted comma I'll write, in double inverted comma I'll write comma. Then y. Here I'll write ended because I have more lines. Again Cout, I have to display the radius. Radius is, I've stored radius in r variable. Next again Cout area equals to, here I'll call area function where I've calculated area of a circle, and within Cout circumference, and here I'll circle function. Here I'll write ended. Now we have done writing the class member function. Also we have declared defined. The last thing, very important thing, without that function your C++ program won't run. That is the last thing is you have to call void main. So void main CLR SCR. Then one by one we are going to call all the member function. The very first thing is default constructor. Now fourth rule for the constructor is how to call default constructor. So whenever you will use class, you have to create an object for that class. So your class name is say circle. How to create object? With the class name, just you have to write the object. One by one, using this object, we are going to call all the functions. The very first function is default constructor. You have to call this default constructor. Fourth rule for default constructor, whenever you create an object at the same time, default constructor will get called. So here, two things we are doing. We are creating object At the same time, we are calling for constructor. So the first thing is done. As per the output, we want first two input lines, which is already we have written in the default constructor. Now the next thing is we want all the output. So we have already written this all the output which function, that is within this print function. So only two functions we are going to call over here. First one is default and the next one is print function. Last thing is get ch function. I'll compile. Okay, I haven't written header files over here. So I'll add header files. Include iostream.h, then include h. Okay, compile, run. Enter x and y coordinates 6 and 4. Enter radius 6. Coordinates are 3, 4. The radius is 6.